Hi, King.
Hi, Queen.
Welcome, Royalty.
All right, so I'm Dr. Nathan Nawan,
Hi, I'm Tamia, also known as Precious Pen.
and right now we're having a conversation on grief and loss because, as you know, that's something we all go through. We can't avoid it, and especially during times of the holiday season, it tends to hit people the hardest. Right?
Yeah.
And so, what about your second point?
Right, and so you're talking about the friends and support system that we surround ourselves, segues right into that, atmospheres. I think that, and I can only speak for my journeys, is we become a different person on the other side of loss. And I know, Dr. Nate, when we were talking, you really highlighted, loss can be a broad sense, whether it be a loved one or a career or a dream or even a divorce. There's different forms of loss, which, I know you're going to touch on later. But we become a different person on the other side of loss. So when I jotted down atmospheres as a note, it's, I kind of saw it like a creative child, like if we have a baby, when you have a baby, you don't just let everyone walk in the room like that's going to be smoking, or if someone has the flu or if someone has pneumonia, you wouldn't let them run up on your baby like that, because that child is so susceptible. And so, from my experience, that's kind of how it feels, especially with the loss of a loved one, that on the other side of that loss, you're a different person and you don't even know you don't even know what space that is. So protecting your atmosphere and your environment with people that are not going to be full of negativity, full of just harmful things and destructive and unhealthy, not bringing a whole lot of that to the table, is just so important, because it's kind of like, I think of The Matrix. I know we're talking movies. I've thought of a lot of movies as visual cues with my journey, and The Matrix is one of them. That when you're like being rebirthed or whatnot, that's kind of how I see it on the other side of loss. And you really can't afford to be around people that are toxic, because that toxic atmosphere just does so much harm and can put you in an unhealthy place. So anyone that is like being really negative or just bringing a lot of stress and drama to the table, those are just people that I don't surround myself with. I'm kind of a natural personality. I never surround myself with people like that unless I'm, helping out, like, volunteer work. But especially when you're on the other side of loss, it's critical not to allow that in your space, because you've got to upgrade. You've got to keep yourself above deep waters, and any kind of toxic elements will bring you down.
Yeah, and as you was mentioning that, it's important to know too, sometimes the negative people in your life, it may be a little difficult to get away from, because they might be your family, right? And so making sure, especially during that time, to keep a distance, and also just be understanding that people grieve in their own ways, right? And so everybody doesn't necessarily grieve in the most healthiest way. And so to make sure you're guiding yourself on a healthy path of grieving and healing from that loss, to make sure you do surround yourself with positive people. And as you mentioned, being proactive and making that change in your life now. Surrounding yourself with positive people who are doing healthy things now. Because if somebody isn't doing healthy things now, and they're going through a loss and you're going through a loss, that unhealthy behavior is likely to intensify, or that negative energy is likely to intensify. So surrounding yourself, filling yourself up with that positive energy now, so that while you're healing, that positive energy was seen to come out more than that negative energy. So it's about being proactive, and I like what you said about that rebirth, because especially when you're experiencing the loss of somebody that's been in your life for as long as you've known
Yeah.
your life, right? Is learning to live your life without them in that same way. And it is kind of like a rebirth, learning new behaviors, or new habits, or a new routine, without having that person there in that way again. But again, and we'll talk about it, but we just have to learn how to reconnect with that person in a different way. You know, because they may not be physically here, but as I was taught, there's three parts to us. There's our physical, our body, our mental, and then there's our spiritual. And even though you know, the other two parts might be gone, that spiritual part is still with us. And so just learning how to reconnect with them, even if we are unable to see or touch them.
Dad!